We gather here today to celebrate the life of a spectacular woman, Shirley Davidson, my grandmother. Shirley was born in West Rutland, Vermont, and she was the youngest daughter of John and Winifred McGinley. Shirley has always been extremely family-oriented and loved her sisters Marguerite and Janet very much. Shirley was a bright student and won first prize in an essay contest her senior year of high school. She was also involved in extracurricular activities such as Glee Club and band. After high school, Shirley fell in love with Harley Davidson, and they started their life together. When she was 17, they bought the house on Davis Street, which she lived in till the very end. They even had their wedding ceremony in the home prior to moving in. Shortly after getting married, Shirley had her first son, Dean Davidson, when she was just 19 years old. Talking about her life, she would often say, "Dean and I grew up together." A few years later, she had her second son, Jay Davidson, who's my father. Shirley loved her boys with every fiber of her being and was endlessly proud of their achievements. Shirley would often say, "I must have done something right for my boys to take care of me like this." And this is true. There is nothing my dad and Dean would not do for her. After Dean and Jay were grown, Harley's mom got sick. Grandma Davidson moved in with them, and Shirley was her primary caretaker. Shirley adored Harley's mom and spoke of her very fondly. She always told me how important it was to have a good relationship with your mother-in-law, and in turn, she always told me how special her daughter-in-law, my mom Carla, was to her. Over the years, Shirley faced many health obstacles, which included a broken elbow, breast cancer, 2 broken wrists, and so much more. But Shirley was resilient and one tough cookie and took anything that came her way. When she broke both her wrists, she was forced to move into my parents' house so they could help her with everyday tasks, since she was in a cast from her fingertips to elbows on both sides. I remember her being very frustrated because besides her wrist, she was perfectly healthy, and Shirley did not like having her independence taken away from her. In the end, she told me she really enjoyed the time at my parents' house because she got to witness their love firsthand, and always praised them for the way that they took care of her. Grandma Shirley truly embodied every characteristic of a stereotypical grandmother. You could not enter her home without her asking to fix you something to eat, and you could not leave without her offering everything in her pantry and the shirt off her back. Some of Grandma Shirley's staples were turkey bacon for breakfast because it was much healthier than regular bacon, along with an assortment of fruit and muffins that were always fresh out of the oven. For lunch, it would be sloppy joes or a sandwich, served with a cold side salad or chips. If she knew company was coming, you could expect a 2-layer Jell-O ring filled with fruit cocktail for dessert. And if she knew I was coming, it would be strawberry or lime because I preferred those over the orange. And no matter how much food you ate, Grandma Shirley would always tell you you didn't eat enough. Shirley's house was decorated with photos of my brother and Greg and I throughout the years. And if you knew her just a little bit, I guarantee she took the opportunity to tell you how much she loved being a grandmother and how special Greg and I were to her. One of my favorite things about my grandmother's house is I didn't have to picture what it was like for my dad and Dean to grow up there. While it was always freshly dusted and vacuumed, her house is a time capsule to the 1960s. From the flooring to cabinets, wallpaper, and furniture, Shirley liked everything the way it was and simply did not like change. Shirley took pride in her well-kept lawn and garden. She had a green thumb and would grow her marigolds from scratch over the winter. If she ever missed a phone call, it was because she was outside in the garden, mowing her lawn, raking, or shoveling. She took great care of her house, and if there's ever a project she couldn't tackle herself, her sons, Dean and Jay, were enlisted. But not without a watchful eye and a lot of supervision. Shirley loved being involved with the Rutland community. She took pride in her elected role as ward clerk during election season, a position she held alongside her friends Janet O'Brien and Nancy Kijiji. I found a newspaper clipping that said their combined services was over 120 years. Beyond her work, Shirley cherished her friendships. She loved going to Panera with the girls to socialize, along with having her friends over on Monday night to watch Dancing with the Stars. She was a popular woman who loved talking on the phone. If you called during a prime time, you were often met with a busy signal because she was already on the line with another friend catching up. One of Shirley's quirky traits is she always let her phone go to voicemail before picking up so she would know who was calling. because despite having 9 phones, she did not have caller ID. And Graham never called a phone call a phone call. She always referred to them as a jingle. She would say, "When you have a moment, give me a jingle," or, "I thought I'd just give you a quick jingle." Shirley was known for her kindness and grace, except for when she was dealt a draw 4 card in her favorite game of Uno, to which you were met with a witty remark like, "I don't know if I like you anymore," or, "If you want to stay at my house tonight, you might want to pick that card back up." Strategically over the years, my brother Greg and I learned it's best not to sit next to her during Uno. So these draw 4 cards were often served by his wife Gabby or my boyfriend Ben. Grandma Shirley had a unique ability to express her emotions openly and authentically. She always took the time to remind you how much you were loved and how proud of you she was. Her love language was giving and receiving cards, in which she would display in her living room. In her house, you will find drawers and boxes full of cards, organized by person and event. She kept these cards not because she's a hoarder, but because each of those cards truly meant that much to her and were sentimental. Oddly, this is a trait I must have inherited because I also keep and organize every card that's special to me. This past week, I found a letter written from Harley to Shirley's family asking for her hand in marriage. In the letter, Harley wrote, "I'm sure of one thing, and that is no one could ever love Shirl any more than I do. And if God is willing, I'd spend the rest of my life proving that to Shirl and the rest of the world." And while I didn't know my grandfather very well, since he passed when I was 5 years old, Grandma Shirley always told me how special their love was. It makes my heart happy to know that he was able to love her as deeply as he promised. Shirley kept Harley's legacy alive through the stories she would tell. They were a true power couple, put their family first, and raised 2 of the best men I know. It gives me peace that they are together again. The night Grandma Shirley passed, as I was leaving her house with my family to go to the hospital, we saw the most amazing sunset I've ever seen. Her grass was freshly mowed by Dean, and her flower garden was as vibrant as ever. I took a photo of the sunset over her house as I had a gut feeling this was Shirley's way of saying goodbye. Within a half an hour of that photo, I was proven right. Graham, I will look for you in the sunsets and think of you when I smell fresh cut grass. Grandma Shirley signed every card to me the same way with, "Love always, Graham." And even if she isn't physically here anymore, I promise to love her always.